Morning, it's Andrea. I have a small dog friend here. He's, anyway, don't matter about him. Okay, so I was just talking to somebody. I get where I have these private messages and then ideas pop around ways to serve people, ways to educate people, ways to fill gaps for people is a lot of what I do, both in human design and in online marketing. Is sort of what I've always done. I've always filled gaps. I have my personal design has fear as motivation and the first line, so I'm a 1-3, which means that the first line is investigator, researcher, person. This is who I think I am anyway. And the third line bumps around while it does this stuff, trial and errors its way through life, like my body does, my efforts do, my everything. And then the fear piece, which is my motivation, it's one of they call it the 4 transformations that goes with the arrows that are on either side of your head, which are called variables. And there's another layer of the chart called that has color and tone are the key, or the pieces that go on this other layer beneath the line, blah blah. So I'm already talking jargon, right? So here's what I want to propose. I want to share some things with the friend who I've been talking to in private message, and I figured I'd leverage it on a video. But I also have an invitation for you if you feel like the jargon and the details of the chart and not knowing what resources are the right resources to be the most efficiently using your time to dig into this stuff with. If that's you, I want to do something, and I'm thinking it's probably like some kind of an open office hour webinar Zoom thing that basically we get all of the questions. I mean, it's endless. This knowledge base is endless, but there's some basic stuff that if you don't have a handle on what people are talking about, you don't know what they're talking about. It's really straightforward like that. So one of the things that I was trying to get across to this person was that there's 9 centers in a body graph. So you have a body graph. If you don't have one, go ahead and get one at I like humandesignamerica.com is the straightest path to a chart maker. You don't need to buy anything else on that site. Just go get the chart, the basic chart, or you can ask me for an advanced, extended version, which includes the motivation, color, tone stuff. So it's motivation, view, environment, and it's called determination, but other people call it digestion. The environment and determination side are also mutually called, although some people say it's only the determination piece. But anyway, that side, it's the red side, it's your PHS, which is primary health system, which is how you, beyond strategy and authority, support your own cognition best. And this is where she was running into, she's in deep doo-doo because of this piece, in my opinion. And she's not in deep doo-doo anymore because I'm pinpointing it, and she has the opportunity to find a toehold in this stuff, where before she was just spinning out of control. And it's because of not understanding some key pieces to this particular design that she was born with under. So there are 9 centers, like literally there are 9 squares or triangles or diamonds there on the chart. Those are the 9 centers. In your chart, there will be some, unless you're a reflector, in which case they'll all be white, but there will be some of those shapes colored in, and some of them with different colors. And don't worry about the colors. The colors are not, I don't even know if they actually matter, but they definitely don't matter now. The ones that are colored in are where your energy is fixed and consistent, and also in some ways, a lot of ways, rigid is another word that goes with that. The white areas, people call their openness, And also the openness can apply to the lines in between those shapes, which are the channels. So when there's a full channel colored in, any of those lines all the way colored in, those are called channels. When they're only halfway colored in, it's the gate on the that the color is coming off of. There's a number there, that's the gate. And then it's not a full channel, it's called a gate, an activated gate. So here's what was going on, here's what is going on for this friend with her chart. She has an all the way open, meaning no gates activated, all the way white, there's no lines coming off of it, head center and emotional center. She also has several other centers that do have gates. I was just looking at her chart, that do have gates coming off of them, and we're not going to tackle those right away because understanding the whole thing all at once is impossible. For me, what's worked is to pick apart and examine different pieces. Yes, it's a whole chart, and yes, it's all going to come together as your whole self, but it has helped me to, and when I guide other people to be introspective about specific pieces independent of the rest of the chart, so that you can begin to get a clue as to what is operating where. And you know, a lot of people will say strategy and authority, strategy and authority, strategy and authority. Well, it's not enough if your head center, so my head center is all the way open as well. It's not enough if your head center is all the way open, because you have no actual capacity to recognize that the stuff that's going on in your head is mostly not your stuff, until somebody says, hey, look, take a look and see, is this really all your stuff? So open centers, and I have a document, it's a raw transcript from an audio that somebody shared about open centers, all the way open, and then undefined centers. So this is a nuance that a lot of people don't they don't either know, or and just, you know, assume that everybody else knows, or they don't know. So open centers, all the way open centers, are centers with no gate activations, white with nothing, no colors around that center. Undefined is when there's a gate coming off of any center. So people talk about their open centers, but they're in the grand scheme of things, openness is anything white. But if you want to get nuanced and specific, when you're talking about an open center, it's different than an undefined center. An undefined center has a flavor to it, no matter what goes on. So here's the short version of open and undefined centers that you can look into more. I can give you the link to this particular document. It was illuminating for me because I do have 2 all the way open centers, and then I have 2 that have some gates that are white, but they have gates, so they have a theme to them. So my open head was absolutely the keystone to my understanding any of this stuff, or being able to take on board and start my own experiment. If somebody had continued to say, just do strategy and authority, and I had just listened to that, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to dive in the way that I have dove. Anyway, at this point, right now, when I'm sitting here, it's about almost 4.5 years. I just passed 4 years. It was 4 years a few months ago. Since I bumped into human design completely unexpectedly, which is hilarious because my cross is an unexpected cross, so of course I did that. But here's the thing: the way that open centers work, all the way open centers work, and undefined centers, any center that's white, they are amplifiers of the energy around them. So if the person that you're sitting next to has a defined head, their thoughts are going to be filling your head up, if your head center is white. That's the very top center at the top of the chart, the very top one. So hers is all the way open, and she is I can see clearly how knowing that this open center is operating this way will be helpful. I mean, you can't just do strategy and authority if you've got a whole bunch of other shit running in your open and undefined centers. You can't. Like, there's no, I mean, you can begin to. It's not that there's like an order. So there are people who think there's a specific order this stuff goes in, and it's because of the way that Ra taught it, and it's because of, yes, you can make a mental mess of the other deeper parts if you're not being properly guided, or if you're not being properly careful yourself, because you can't really notice your own stuff. It's like I've heard somebody say at an event several years ago, you can't see your own taillights. You can't see your own taillights. You need somebody else to tell you that your own taillights are out. This is a driving metaphor, right? So it's kind of like that. I mean, some people are able to be more aware than others. Some people have had opportunities and time and space in their lives to practice being more aware about what's going on, had the luxury to know, to be still in their lives, in their own spaces and so forth. Which brings me to this other piece of what I'm going to share about her chart in particular, not naming names because this is me leveraging my time and energy noticing what's on her chart, hopefully to help everybody else who has similar things that they could notice in their own charts, or noticing that there's layers that you may be not aware of that really, to me, are critical, especially for projectors, but I think for everybody. And you can't say everybody everything. If you especially, particularly if you have need as a view, for example, this may not be for you. Let me just put that right out here now. My motivation is fear. If your motivation is need, you might want to just go ahead and turn me off in general. Unless you have a handle on your own stuff. I find that people 4 or 5 years in, I can talk to, who have need. The ones who have need as your motivation, and they're new, my version of the world is overwhelming to them and not necessary. People who have need motivation just need to think about the things they need to think about. Now, this is not this gal. She does not have need as a motivation. She has a different motivation. But what I wanted to talk to you about was open heads. So people who have open heads, either you do, or you're undefined, or you know somebody who is. This is just how it is, right? Undefined. Now I have a chart. I have another chart that has, and you can ask me for any of this stuff if you want any of this stuff. There's a chart that has the percentages of each center, and they're also around in the groups and so forth, but feel free to ask me. 70% of the world has an open head, open or undefined head. So that's a lot of people. So the other piece that really, so she didn't have a handle on that there were even 9 centers. She didn't have a handle on, she's done. She didn't have a handle on, which I'm not even like, I got no issue with that, except let me freaking tell you if you don't know, but I don't know what people don't know. And this has been the story of how I've been supportive, again, in the online marketing space, and then in anything. It's like getting to the bottom of things, which is my fear motivation, getting the details. I have 1762, which is a channel that goes from the ajna, which is the second center down, it's the upside down triangle, to the throat, which is about opinions and details. And finding where people's gaps are is really I feel like it empowers people where they're missing a piece of the information and they're just, going along kind of feeling nuts. If you don't understand that your head center is undefined or open, and that half of the shit or more that's going on in your head is not, and it doesn't even have to be a defined head. It can be an undefined head with other crazy stuff going on in their own heads, and you are filtering that. It's like you're amplifying that stuff. So that's an important piece, and that was literally the keystone for me. I started having to say to my family, step away from me with that because they had a habit and I had not known to cultivate them not to have this habit, direct them, put my boundaries down, whatever you want to call it. I didn't have clarity that all of the stuff that was going on in my head, 90% of the stuff that was going on in my head was not my stuff. It was their stuff. And I started having to, I literally had this, back off, go stand over there and do that, step away from me. This is not my thing. I had to do a lot of that initially, and now they just don't, they've adjusted. But anyway, so open head in this case was my keystone to being able to even begin to have the headspace and the literal time and energy to pay attention to the rest of my personal experiment. The other thing that's going on in her case is she's living in a roommate situation. Lots of people are. And her determination, which is about how she digests life. There's chickens. How she digests life is calm. That means she needs a calm space. And on top of that, and so anything that's not calm is not supporting her cognition. It just isn't. And this cognition meaning supporting her brain function, her actual ability to take things on board. The other piece that's just pops right out is that her environment is caves, and I have 3 cave people who live with me, 3 of them, and there's another video here, I can probably link it below, where I talk about how each one of those cave people is my son, my youngest child, my middle child, a daughter, and my husband all have caves. They're different profiles, so they materialize different in their lives. They express differently, this cave thing. But the gist of it is they need their own space. They need to be able to close the door. They need that control of their unit of space. And like I said, they have different versions of this, which you can listen to. But if you don't know that you need calm and you're always in a chaotic space, or if you don't know that you need a cave and you're putting yourself in situations where you're constantly sharing spaces with people, or haven't figured out the combination to make that not so yet for yourself, which I am intending to work on with her, because it's definitely important. If you don't know which of your open or undefined centers are running your life, you are fucked. And if the beginning of it is if you don't have clarity that you're, even that there are 9 centers on the chart, and which of yours are colored in, and what is your authority, your inner authority, based on which ones are colored in. In her case, hers is the G center authority, which means that of course her G center is colored in and defined and is a consistent energy thing that she can, plant her flag in and so forth. There's these sort of pieces missing. I'm sort of dodging the sun. Is baffling to me and can be rectified and has no shame in it, and I just want to help. So here's what I have as an idea for you, if any of this is true for you, this foundational non-clarity. I am going to put together an offer of some kind. It may be free, but probably not. It'll probably be somewhat cheap or donation or something, because I don't work for free, because that's my energy being spent, you see. So they're always, and I also have tribal. I have tribal activations, which always begs for a bargain of some kind, a deal, an exchange of some kind. But we'll figure it out. I'll make it so that anybody can say yes to it, and I will stay until I'll outstay you. I'm pretty sure. I have an open, undefined will center. I can't make 100% promise, but I can make an intention to answer every question that anybody has that I have access to in my own right mind. We'll go over right mind and left mind stuff if you want. And all of this basic stuff can be addressed. It's like there's no reason for her to have this gap. So I want to fix the gap for her, and I want to fix the gap for you if you are in the same boat. Okay, so look for an offer. If I've already figured out what it is, there's a link to it below this video, and if I haven't, just stay tuned, follow me on Facebook, whatever it is, I'll announce it in the groups and so forth. Okay, and on my wall, because it's not just about projectors, which is most of the groups I'm in. All right, it's got super long, and I feel like there's meat here to maybe it's a foundation to build on. But anyway, I feel like I'm coming to find all the foundations of things. I just figured out a foundation for the online marketing side, which actually I weave together with human design so that leveraged income is possible for people who want to actually be able to rest, and it just goes on and on. Anyway, look for some kind of a human design foundations puzzle piece that you can say yes to easily, and yeah, just keep your eyes peeled or look below. There should be a link.